Masculinity takes many forms in Mortal Kombat, from stoic to charismatic to paternal to toxic, but there is one character that is unique and defies this conventional classification. At first glance, Shang Tsung might seem like the toxic type, perhaps even more of a generally masculine dude, but if you genuinely look at me, you see big balls, small pee-pee. If I have triggered some of you Shang fans, fear not, for I shall elaborate and trigger some more. In order to illustrate my point, I'll have to outline some terminology first, so bear with me.
I promise this goes well.
Masculine and feminine traits are not set in stone. There's a lot of if, then, but, circumstance, situation, and just general relativity to it. Curiosity, for instance. Curiosity can be a very masculine trait since it's one of the main drivers of science, evolution, progress, and betterment, all of which are very masculine endeavors, but it can also be very feminine insofar as it's in relation to the forbidden, the dark, the mysterious, the mystical, the dangerous, the chaotic, which is a feminine interest, especially when these things are exuded by a man. But more important to understand is that feminine and masculine are used as general terms here, more so than gender ones. A man can have a few feminine qualities and still be a man, perhaps even more so, while a woman can exhibit some masculine traits and still be a 9 out of 10 would bang.
Bang, okay?
Mystery is a predominantly feminine trait, the hidden, the unknown, the concealed cave of wonders. Yet a mysterious man can be one of the most attractive people in the room. Furthermore, by their very nature, men are givers and women are receivers. Men build themselves up as best they can, their strength, their skills, their knowledge and expertise, and then they give those resources to women and the community around them. Women accept all of these gifts of labor and ideally put them to good use in order to strengthen the household, the family, the business, whatever it may be. And part of their value is that they also absorb negative energy, if you will. A man's stress, his worries, misgivings, plans, musings, and darkest thoughts. She accepts all of those upon her so that she may lighten the load and allow the man to continue to operate at his best. And of course, in a very basic biological sense, the man gives his seed and the woman receives it in order to provide,
Children! I lost the word there.
And mind you, I'm not implying women don't work and men don't receive. There are plenty of high-performing women that outwork most male CEOs, and most men receive plenty of care and help and resources and woes and worries from their women. I'm simply pointing out that these are natural compulsions that men and women have, and that they derive a sense of purpose from fulfilling them. So give and receive is the positive, benevolent form of this exchange. The negative one is something like inflict and take. In its negative form, the masculine inflicts itself upon the non-consenting world. Thugs, bullies, rapists, criminals, and conquerors. Instead of offering their talents to the world, they inflict them upon the world in order to take it for themselves. All the while, the dark feminine doesn't earn and graciously accept what is given to her. She takes anything that she can get away with while providing nothing in return. She will lie, cheat, steal, swindle, feign tears and vulnerability to get what she wants, abuse people's feelings, gaslight challengers, steal the man's seed and use the resulting children against him. She will work her man dry while belittling him, take his children, his money, his household from him, and move on to the next victim. In other words, she's a soul sucker. Checkmate, Shang. Now obviously there are other things that go into it, and it's a nuanced topic, but on a symbolic level, Shang Tsung's entire character is framed around this negative masculine concept because he's the hero's negative. Liu Kang and Kung Lao both embody conventionally masculine virtues: honor, discipline, kindness, physical and spiritual health, inner strength, and self-control. Meanwhile, Shang exhibits a corresponding opposite for each one of these traits. He's a duplicitous schemer, he's forcefully disciplined by his addictive power and his overlords rather than by himself. He's about as kind as a horny dog is to a leg, and his health, longevity, and strength literally come from the hundreds, if not thousands, of souls he's consumed, which absolutely kills his self-control. If cocaine contained soul energy, Shang would have snorted his fucking nose off by now. And that's one of the key differences between him and the other prominent sorcerer, because Quan isn't driven by his passions and addictions, at least not in the games, and you can clearly see the difference in the way the two are voice acted. expected, particularly in MK9. Shang sounds like a stoned, horny hamster,
The tournament!
while Quan has a colder, more detached intonation. Character-wise, Quan is more of a primordial archetype embodying the Faustian devil and eternal trickster, while Shang, despite his transcendent power and near immortality, remains irrevocably human, with human flaws and viewpoints. Thus, he's less of an archetype and more of a singular character. People say the two sorcerers are redundant to one another, and that breaks my placeholder of a heart to hear, for they could not be more different. To their point, though, the games haven't done a good job of keeping them distinct. In the original timeline, Shang was the one who resurrected Sindel, in the rebooted one, Quan Chi does it. Huzzah. So instead of one just taking over the other's role, more should be done with both of them plot-wise. But character-wise, Shang is at the mercy of his master, only ever able to one-up him in the Aftermath storyline and, by extension, MK12, while Quan Chi tirelessly plots and succeeds in overthrowing his master in one timeline and manipulates an overpowered ruler in another. The reason he succeeds more often than Shang is because he's in control of his desires, whereas Shang's desires control him. If we include the only young version of this character that we have, things become even clearer. Mortal Kombat Conquest, which I'm sure you're sick of me bringing up and I'm sure I don't care, acts as a kind of prequel for many of these iconic characters, including Shang Tsung. Ex-champion of Earthrealm, cheater, easily seduced by the dark side, endlessly curious, power-hungry, fearful, vain, spiteful, salty, more than willing to cross the line. These aren't fundamentally feminine traits, but put together in this sorcerer soup, they all become brushstrokes on an anti-masculine portrait. It's quite fitting that the two live-action adaptations of the character that we have cover both extremes of this feminine but not effeminate character. Don't you mean 3 live-action portrayals? Bruce Locke's version of Shang Tsung is a brash, spiteful man-child who's perpetually salty over his defeat at the hands of the great Kung Lao and spends the entire show lusting after the Shaolin warrior's soul. I said soul, not whole. In the games, Shang's origins are never fully explained, but in the Conquest show, they made the rather smart decision to reveal that Shang actually hails from Earthrealm and was once anointed as its champion, not unlike Liu and Lao. He was, however, impatient, headstrong, and fearful, and resorted to sorcery during his Mortal Kombat match against an Outworld fighter, something that is forbidden in that show's canon. Shao Kahn took him as his prisoner as payment for this transgression, but also because he saw potential in him and taught him how to steal souls, and the rest is history. This adds a bit of a tragic element to Shang Tsung, as he was once very similar to Liu Kang and Kung Lao, which also expands on why Shang holds such a grudge against them. They're a vision of what Shang Tsung could have aspired to, but curiosity and lust for power instead turned him into the complete opposite. Instead of embodying the masculine yang, Shang succumbed to the feminine, retractive yin, driven by hunger, greed, darkness, and insatiable curiosity. Yet while young Shang Tsung is this spiteful, bitchy, impatient, arrogant edgelord who wears his dark impulses on his sleeve, Kari Tagawa's older, more cunning Shang is the complete opposite. He's extremely polite, he's charming, he always smiles, he's mysterious, and he has this seductive quality to him that draws you in. You know he's evil, the movie makes sure you can spot that from the fucking Andromeda Galaxy, but he charms and disarms you nonetheless. And when he smirks, you can't help but smirk with him. There's a certain tier of characters that, even if they're evil pieces of shit, they are so charismatic that they draw you in and make you want to be part of their treehouse club because it looks like so much damn fun. And that is the seductive power of the feminine. Young Shang is the cocky, cool, low-born, loathsome, self-styled, soul-sucking while old Shang is the inviting femme fatale, in this case homme fatale, that you know you shouldn't trust but are drawn to anyway. Is there no better equivalent to femme fatale? Chad Thundercock. Thanks, Internet. And if you'll permit me a small degree of headcanon, my interpretation of the soul and how soul energy works in this mythos feeds into all of this as well, because I'd like to impress upon you the idea that it's not just sorcerers and necromancers who make use of this type of energy. The Shaolin do it as well, because you don't just have other people's souls to tap into, you also have your own, and it's not difficult to believe that all that prayer and meditation would allow Shaolin monks to tap into their own souls and manipulate them to a degree. A far cry from soul stealing, let alone soul mimicry, which is a step even higher and that I cover here. But since the soul is your life force, your very body and mind, Shaolin practices lead to greater strength, a longer life, better reflexes, better constitution, more resilience, which partly explain why Shaolin monks can compete with long-lived aliens and demigods. Soul stealing is obviously more powerful though, and all the benefits that the Shaolin method provides, soul sucking amps up tenfold, but at a terrible cost, leaving the user with a bad case of soul addiction and the victim with a bad case of dead. And this is another stark difference between the masculine and the feminine, for discipline and self-control are, as mentioned before, predominantly masculine traits, while unrestricted indulgence is more of a feminine thing, something every man gets reminded of whenever they loan their credit cards to their wives. I guess the modern real-life version of Shang Tsung would be someone who's extremely talented, but also extremely unable to rip themselves away from all the cheap dopamine around them and actually do something more constructive with their lives. Not that any of us relate to this. As I said in the beginning, and will say again now to bring things full circle, this is a nuanced topic, so as a final act of kindness to the walking soul vacuum, let's highlight some of Shang's more masculine traits too. Ambition, charm, intelligence, cunning, ruthlessness, muscles, a leather jacket, and last but not least, self-loathing.